Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this virtual launch of this lovely new book that's been written by this lovely friend of mine, the mental health and the Christian. Good evening, wherever you are. For those of us joining us from other time zones, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time zone you are. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really grateful for that. And it's for the virtual launch of the book that's been written by Dr. Glory. Just to introduce you, I'm not by myself today. I'm here with the author herself, who is, I don't know how to introduce you, but I'll start. I think the most important thing is that she's first of all a child of God. Yes. She's a wife, a mother. She is a doctor. She is a worship leader. She has so many hats, and now she is an author. So written the mental health and the Christian. So Dr. Gloria Lufke, you're welcome to this launch of your book. I hope you're excited as I am.
Yeah, I am excited. Thank you very much.
And we're also joined all the way from Nigeria by Dr. Debbie. Otefe Debbie is a consultant psychiatrist. He's a motivational speaker, a coach, an author, and most importantly, is a child of God, is a Christian. So thank you very much for joining us. We will bring you in later on. So let's just go, because of time, we have only very short time here. I'm just going to be speaking to you first, Dr. Glory. I mean, I've known you for several years now. We're colleagues. Dr. Glory is a general practitioner in Aberdeen. She works in Aberdeen, and as I said, has written this book because she's seen a gap somewhere. So the first things first is, I mean, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, thank you very much. I suppose you've mentioned most of it. So I am Glory Elufuke, married to a wonderful husband, Petrus, and together we have two lovely children. I'm a GP, like my colleague had already said. As a GP with special interest in women and sexual health. I also a member of the Royal College of General Practitioners in the UK here. I'm a practicing Christian, like you mentioned, a song writer and a singer and a recording artist by the grace of God. He also mentioned I'm one of the worship leaders in my local church. That's about me, and I am really passionate about impacting life. Hence, the driver for writing this book.
Right, fantastic. So you have so many arts, so so many things that you juggle together. I mean, I forgot to mention that you're, of course, a recording artist. You have a song that are out. But the book now, we're talking about the book today. I mean, I guess the first question I'm going to ask is, what are your motivations for writing this book? Why did you write it? What exactly was going on in your mind when you put pen to paper?
Okay, I would say both from my professional point of view and from my personal point of view. From a professional point of view, as a GP here, we are privileged to see a variety of mental health problems, ranging from the mild to the very severe ones, really requiring hospital referrals to psychiatrists, obviously, and also some hospitalization. As you know, mental health, no one is immune. We've seen that it can affect the young, the old, all races, and any individual at all. And so I have also witnessed the devastating impact of mental health problems, not just to the sufferer, but also to the family at large. And so it was based on all this that I decided to write this book. And also, if you notice, in the last 18 months of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, the level of complexity had even increased. And we are seeing, it seemed to be a surge in the presentation of mental health related cases. That's my profession from that professional point of view. And then from my personal point of view, I have gone through a lot in life. I lost my parents very early and in life, and to juggle that as well, and also with the ensuing responsibility of catering for my 7 siblings. That was a huge weight on my little shoulders then. And at that time, there were limited resources to, signpost you to help. Um, Even now, I still have those responsibility. But over the years, by the grace of God, I've been able to overcome some of them, and hopefully we'll talk about that in another book. Yeah. So for today, he mentioned motivation. So these are part of my motivation. Another motivation is I have in my experience as a GP, I have noticed that most Christians are very reluctant to seek medical or professional help when it comes to mental health. We have also noticed that there's a big gap, up to 70 to 75% of mental illnesses are not, or people suffering from mental health do not seek help, obviously, from the BMA community, mostly from the minority groups. So, with all this in mind, I decided to write this book. But the most important um, driver was that it was placed on my heart to do that. So I would say even the thought of writing it was divinely inspired. And I've had to give talks in my local church about mental health, and the feedback that came through actually indicated that there's a need to put pen to paper, highlight the need.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Glory. One thing I always say is that a book that you see that is written from both a professional and a personal viewpoint are the most impactful books. And I can tell you that this one, because I've gone through it, is an impactful one. And you guys should pick up the book once Dr. Glory will tell us later on how it's available, how you can get it. It's a very, very wonderfully written book. Because of our time, I'm just going to go to Dr. Edebi now. I don't know whether you can hear us. I'll let you also just speak to us a little bit about your experience as a consultant psychiatrist, a Christian, a coach in Nigeria. What are your thoughts, and what are the things that you've experienced concerning Christian and mental health?
Sorry, excuse me. I said I just want to join the multitude to congratulate you on your book. Well done, well done, well done. And I'm excited to be here. So my experience, I have been in the field of mental health in the last 15 years, since 2006. That's when I started my journey in this field. And one of the things what I would say is that, first of all, it's a growing field, like the field is the issue of stigma. I remember when I was in training and I would go to my place of training. Back then, it was a huge deal. Back in 2006, all the way to, I was in training for about 6 to 7 years. And I remember the stigma was quite huge. Even as a medical personnel, you could not just easily identify yourself as a psychiatrist. I remember personally in my own life, when I said to my father that I wanted to be a psychiatrist, he said, "Why would you want to be a psychiatrist? Why is that? So you see, the issue of stigma has been a limiting factor. Over the years also, I'm a Christian, I love God, but I've also seen that sometimes due to lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and lack of appreciation of what mental health is all about, some people have been misguided and misinformed, and because of that, some people who have struggled with this have also been afraid to put themselves out there in the public. But I would say that in the last few years, that is changing. There's a new generation of young people that are making a massive difference here in Nigeria, a movement of NGOs, lending their voice and rising up literally and being of help to people with their mental health. So I would say that I often say this is one of the best time to be a psychiatrist in Nigeria, because the narrative is changing, the discussion is changing. People are beginning to take their mental health a bit, or look into their mental health a bit closely. That's been my experience basically as a practitioner here in Nigeria.
So much for sharing your experience in Nigeria, and your experience is it's probably not completely starkly different from the experience here. I mean, I know that here in the United Kingdom, there's more acceptance, more openness to talk about things now, but it was never like this before. There was always stigma, but still, we find in the BME community, as Dr. Gloria said, that there's still a lot of stigma there, and even amongst Christians. People don't want to talk about mental health issues in churches, in church community groups, in the BME. I guess that brings me first to my question. I mean, I wanted to ask this question second, but I'll ask that first. What do you think are the barriers, Dr. Glory? You mentioned some in your book, and I'll say that. I mean, I'll tell Dr. Glory just to answer a few questions so that you go and get the rest of the gist in the book. What do you think are the barriers, and how do we break down these barriers in the Christian community mostly, because your book is focused on the Christian and mental health? How do we break down these barriers? How do we approach it as Christians, as church leaders, as people supporting people who might be suffering with mental health issues?
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's a very important question. You know, because as a Christian, some people think that mental illness is a taboo subject to speak about, and some people don't realize that we are human. In the book, I mentioned, I gave an example of the powerful Elijah that we all knew about in the Bible, and how he, at a point in his life, did suffer some sort of mental health, that he was even wishing to die, asking God to kill him, but God to allow him to die. But God saw him through that challenge. So because of the misconceptions, the stigma, and even stereotypes that already exist in church, people think that if I come up and say I've got a mental health problem, you will be looked down on, or you'll be looked at unspiritual, or that you will be looked at lacking in faith or in weakness. But it's not, because we are humans, and your problems, because mental health or illness or depression or anxiety can be triggered by physical problems, can be triggered job losses, or loss of a loved one. So there are different causes of it, and these are all stipulated in the book. So it's important that we begin to talk about this. So you mentioned the remedy of it. So I would look at it in three categories. So the first one would be the sufferer, who is the person suffering from mental illness. So it's important for you to realize that you are not alone. It's common, it's being spoken about on the news, the media, the celebrities. Everyone has recognized the importance of mental health, and people are open about it. So it's okay to be vulnerable sometimes, okay to speak up, okay to understand that you're not alone. So it's important not to isolate, because isolation will foster negativity. So it's important that you come out, talk to trusted friends or your pastor, or seek professional help. Like in the UK here, the management, usually your GP, is your first port of call, who you can approach and explain your symptoms, and they would, in conjunction with yourselves, it's usually shared management, and so we will be directed to the right place to go. For the susceptible, we are all susceptible, because we go through things in life, we go through challenges, we go through stresses. It's how we manage them that matter. So it's important that we learn and create an awareness in churches, that you know that you're not also alone, and that your support, we all have a role to play, so that you support these people with kind words. I say kind words, and because one of my patients, confide or spoke to me about this, that his mental health, mental illness was made worse by the words that he heard from his employer. So we need to be careful, mindful of the words we use around these people. You can't just tell them you lack resilience. You just get up and go. It's that simple. It's not that simple. So these are real feelings, because our mental health actually drives. It's a fuel that drives our body. So we need to be sound, and also for the individual, like church support. So it's important that an awareness is created, and I'm happy in my local church, this has been going on. Like last year, I gave a talk about mental health, self-care, and all that. So this creates awareness of the condition, and also allow people, to come out and speak about it. Let's have the discussion. Let's know what we do. And in the book, there's um, a chapter dedicated to where to available resources for everyone, really. So I will advise you really to get the book and to get more information.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glory. Thank you very much for that wonderful answer. And I'm just going to pick up on the points before I go to my next question. Because of time, I won't be able to ask you all the questions you want. I have so many questions for you. You said there's a chapter on resources, and I'm just going to encourage us also that, you said, get an appointment with your GP. Some people might have a little bit of, reluctance. Yeah, reluctance to approach GPs and things like that. But if you have any reluctance to approach GPs, there's a whole chapter of resources, online resources, phone resources, video resources, face-to-face resources that are available for people, which is a whole chapter. Dr. Glory has dedicated a whole chapter onto that. It is very, very, very important. The book is fully packed, and just get your copy. Before we go on to the rest of the program, I wanted to ask you another question. It's not in the question pack I sent to you earlier, so it's a curveball. In the last 18 months, you mentioned it earlier, we've seen COVID, and there's been an increase, a rapid increase in mental health issues, in stress and anxiety. People have been worried, job losses and things. And I'm just going to bring it down to you now as the author. How do you deal with everyday stress? Every day, because everything seems to be very stressful now. How do you deal with it personally? I know you did mention some things in the book, so if you just give us a bit of insight into how you deal with stress personally.
Thank you very much. As we know, stress is inevitable. It's an inevitable part of life. So how you manage it is what really counts. So for me, personally, prioritization is key. Things that need to be done, or things that will be left for later. Secondly, when it's too overwhelming, I just go to a quiet place and pray. And that has been my strength. Praying, singing. I love singing, listening to music. Those are some of my distressing, or coping strategies. Secondly, exercise, self-care, eating healthy, Also, I have a wonderful husband who is very understanding. In fact, I call him a pack of wisdom. He's full of wisdom, and I get counsel from him. That's my personal take on that. But the other formal ways of coping with stress you would find in the book, chapter 3.
That's fine. Yes, chapter 3. The book has a whole chapter on stress and stress management, and I wanted to highlight that because there's been an increase in stress people are under just now. I'm going to ask you one more question before I then go and talk about a little bit about the book more, and and I'll leave you to tell us about how people can get the book. Now, how did you find the writing process? Because you're coming from quite a few, you're coming from a professional point of view, you're coming from a Christian point of view, you're also coming from a personal point of view, because you've said yourself that you've had to deal with quite a lot of stress earlier on, and where you didn't have so much resources to turn to. How did you find writing the book? Was it quite a difficult experience? And then you do quite a lot of things also. So how did you find that?
Well, it's I would say, yeah, it was difficult, but I started preparing about this for a long time, especially when I was given the topic to speak in my church. So had some things in place, and I would really thank my husband who has been very supportive. They gave me the sterile cockpit to focus on writing the book. So yeah, lots of sleepless nights and and research gone into it. But I'm grateful to God for His strength. For me personally, I cannot do without the Holy Spirit. I cannot do without God. It's been everything to me. I am who I am today by the mercies of God, and I keep saying that every day. We work. Work is busy. Life is busy. Everything is busy. But your trust in God, knowing that someone loves you, knowing that there's someone you can always run to and say, Lord, just take it all. And that's what helps me. When it's all overwhelming, when it's all too much, I just go back to God and say, Lord, just take this from me. And I have peace of mind. And yeah, it's just by the mercies of God.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I know I've made it a little bit personal, and it's very good. And I think that's one of the things that the book has. It's first of all, it's well researched. So I mean, you'll see quite a lot of quoting different resources, different materials. That's one of the things I like about the book, because as doctors, we will have a medical background. We usually say, so what's your authority on that? Where's your evidence for that? It has to be evidence-based medicine and things like that. And there's a lot of quoting, there's a lot of referencing materials and things, which makes it, for me, I'm like, okay, that's fine. This is authoritative. That's one. But there's also that personal beat of the book, from a personal experience. This is what I've experienced. This is where the resources are. This is what I see every day, day to day, which is very, very important. So this book is a fantastic book. It has a chapter on stress. It has another chapter on women's mental health, which I think is very important, because this is one area that people tend to overlook. They just say, oh, she's just been a woman, or just been a hormonal or something like that. And there's a whole chapter on things like premenstrual, the PMDD. There's postnatal depression. There's also a chapter on children. Yes, there's also a chapter on children for us parents, how to recognize if this child is struggling, how to do that. So you've written a very, very fantastic book here. It's a wonderful book, and as I said, I want you guys to go out and get this book. And it is full of resources. I'm going to let you just now unveil and tell us what the book looks like, how we can get the book, and where you want where the book is available and how much it's going to cost us.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, that's when they get to where. Just tell us where we can get the book, and unveil it. Unveil it and.
Okay. Yeah, this is the book. You can see that.
Well printed.
Yeah. So you can find it on Amazon. yeah, it's already live in Amazon, so you can either Google it or I will make available the link. It can also be found on Virgin publishing.co.uk. I will also make that available for you. So, like he said, it's a wonderful book, and I'm so excited about it. And I know it will make very huge impact in your life. So whether you're a person suffering from the mental illness, or you know someone who is suffering from it, so please get your copy, get for your friends, get for your family. There's something for everyone in this book, and I encourage you to get one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glory. So the book is available on Amazon. You can get your copy. I've seen it. I mean, of course, I saw the manuscript initially, and I've seen the printed book. It's well printed, lovely printing. It's glossy cover. It's available on Amazon, available on bgem.co.uk, publishing.co.uk. And that will be posted out for us to see. Get your copies as soon as we finish here. You can get your copies now. Before we go, I mean, our time is fast spent. I just wanted to ask you any final thoughts, any final words. You mentioned something which I wanted to go back to, and when I was introducing you, I mentioned something first. I said, first of all, you're a Christian, and that's the most important thing. You know, you're a child of God. And there's one of the things you mentioned in the book, and of course the book says mental health and the Christian, is that you do not shy away from, you know, the medical bit of things. You do not shy away from the spiritual bit of things, and you did that. But what are any final words for us concerning any of this?
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so it's important we realize that our mental health, there's no health without mental health. It's important that we realize that, recognize it for what it is, and most importantly, avoid isolation. Like I said earlier, isolation will foster negativity. The management of mental health and the options you've got, both from spiritual or professional experts, the management are bound. Like you already said, there's a chapter in the book for that. So for a Christian, I would encourage you, leverage on what you have, leverage on the Word of God, leverage on your pastors, leverage on the support network that you have. And that would see us through. And for you to be very effective as a child of God in winning souls, you've got to have a good mental health. And for us, or for my colleagues who are also watching, for you to have a very good or effective mental health, you've got to find a way to distress, because GP is a very busy life, a very busy department with the increasing patients demands and burden. So find a way, find a hobby. In fact, in the book you will find that one of the researchers said that depression, the exercise and having a hobby, reduces depression by 26%. I was shocked when I saw that. So I encourage you as a colleague, and encourage you, everyone, that yes, look after your mental health and stay strong.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Glory. I'm going to plug the book again. I'm going to tell you about the book, that the book is available on Amazon right now. You can just go, the book is fully packed, different sections. And as I said, it's a well-researched book, quotes resources, like one of the data she just mentioned just now, 26%. That is amazing. That depression is reduced by 26% if you have exercise or a hobby. So just taking up a hobby, exercise might be enough for quite a lot of people. So the book is available. Please go onto Amazon right now, Mental Health and the Christian. Even though the book is looking at things from the mental health and the Christian perspective, it's also beneficial for non-Christians. Yes. It's also beneficial for non-Christians. And it's most important, you don't need to have any mental health illness to be able to benefit from the book. You might be, know someone, you might be able to even give people support based on the information and the knowledge you gain from this book. And final words. I know our time is almost gone. It's about 1 more minute. Is there another book going to come out soon?
Yes, because actually I was given 2 titles to write.
Good.
So mental health and the Christian is the first. So second will be coming. I don't know yet. But
Okay,
yeah.
no pressure, no pressure.
Before we go, I'd like to say thank you very much to some people, and I've listed their names here in my book on the acknowledgement session. I'm just going to read it out so that I don't forget anyone. Yeah, let me just go back to that now. To the passage. Okay, so yeah, I like to start by saying that the completion of this book could not have been possible without the support of many who encouraged me along the way. Your kind words of support are deeply appreciated and gratefully acknowledged. I owe a debt of gratitude to my pastor, Pastor Chris Binley, and Pastor Mrs. Binley, for their unrelenting support, spiritual support, and especially to Pastor for painstakingly reviewing the original manuscript for this book, and for also writing the foreword as well. Also, many thanks to my brother and colleague, Kunle, Dr. Daemi, for also reviewing the original manuscript, and for much more. He's my support network. I always go to him for advice because he's my senior colleague in this journey. Also to Pastor Stanley Okosudu, Dr. Zach Ahani, Dr. Tefe, Dr. Adeze Ifezulike, and Dr. Julius SM for sharing their perspective on mental health issues through the link videos leading up to the publication of this book. And I thank you so much. And for other friends whose name I not mention because they're you know yourselves, but I'm grateful for having you all in my life, and also to thank you for tuning in today to support me, and also for the potential buyers of this book, that your lives will never remain the same. I'm grateful, and I say stay blessed, and thank you very much.
That's fine. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you very much. And this is a wrap. Thank you very much. Please, the book is available on Amazon. Please just go get your copy now. It's a lovely book. You will enjoy the book. Thank you very much. God bless you, everyone.
Thank you.